This is my lesson plan evaluation, and I chose to do it on the See-Through Frog lesson plan. Does the lesson plan contain a writing component? In this case, the lesson plan for the See-Through Frog, it did contain a writing component. In fact, it contained a few different opportunities for the students to do some writing. The lesson contained a handout page where a portion of it, of the worksheet, asked the student to explain their purposes. Like, for example, one question asks, what is the text following the subheading mostly about? And these types of questions gives the students the opportunity to get familiar with the news article and how to find information within the given text. There was also mini lessons within the article or within the reading, and one was on the anniversary of the Titanic, and it also contained a writing portion based on what was read on the deep sea discovery. The lesson also had 5 extra written response questions on the cover story that you could go and get offline for the lesson as well, and I would definitely do that. That was a good feature of the lesson plan. Both writing assignments encouraged the students to think about what had been read and then apply it to their thinking. Does the lesson plan require students to interact at some point as an intellectual community, and do they share knowledge, learning findings using the language of the discipline? Yes, I think, in my opinion, the lesson plan gives the students an excellent opportunity to interact as an intellectual community. There was something in the lesson plan. After you read the whole article in class, the students would choose a text feature from the reading and get with a partner and then explain how it added to their understanding of the reading. And I think that just kind of allows the students time to communicate with their peers and think about their gained knowledge on the topic. I think that it also lets them use the language of the discipline by taking on the role of the explorer and the process of discovery. And I think that talking with your peers always helps you to remember and comprehend things better. And also another thing that they had online for this lesson plan was a Know the News game, which is also it lets the students play as a class or in teams. It's something that one of those extra resources that you could go get online that also had to do with the lesson. It just gives the students extra time to communicate with the other students and just learn from each other and just explore what they had learned in class. It's probably a fun way to interact. The mini lesson on the Titanic anniversary also gave the students a chance to interact and share their learning and knowledge using the language of the discipline. The students would write 6 questions answered in the article that began with who, what, where, why, when, and how. And those are excellent ways to get them thinking like the profession in that field. And then the questions are given to the partner to answer, and this can be considered a writing component of the lesson as well. Does the lesson plan include a project-based activity? Are they doing the work that a real scientist or historian would do in the real world? This lesson plan, in my opinion, it does provide a project-based activity, but it contains, it's like a practice distribute page, and it kind of lets the students find examples within the article and cut them out and paste them in the blank spaces on the page, and then answer the questions about the finding. It's the project in the lesson is concerned less with learning the work of the scientist and more with learning how to research within an article to understand your findings. However, I think the project is useful for the students for better reading comprehension. The lesson plan itself lacks an opportunity for students to do work that a real scientist would do in the real world. Do you think the lesson required the students to think like a scientist? I think that the lesson itself requires the students to think like a scientist. They are introduced to the exploration and discovery process of a scientist. or an explorer, and it presents them with new vocabulary words, for example, amphibians and species, and that allows them the opportunity to use the language of someone in that specific field of study. Furthermore, the plan offers closed reading questions that challenge the students to think more critically about how the scientists made their discoveries. The mini lesson also gave insight into how the discovery of the Titanic came about, and this challenges the students to think about the emotions felt by the explorer when he uncovered the Titanic. To require students to learn, use, know a specific set of behaviors dedicated to the discipline or area of study within the discipline. This lesson does require students to learn, use, and know a specific set of behaviors. And it introduces the student to something new and takes them down a path of discovery using terminology that allows the students to begin to think like the scientist or the explorer. The lesson plan not only provides the students with the knowledge of being a scientist or an explorer, it also starts the lesson with the information needed to understand how to understand what they're reading and going through the direct instruction. This portion of the lesson helps the students to understand text features and how they help readers find and understand key ideas in the text. And I think that's key to understanding the article itself, is understanding how to find the information within the article, and then if you've read it and you don't understand it, you need to know where to go back and kind of find what you've read. The conclusion, in my opinion, I think that the lesson on discovery was an overall good lesson. I think that allows students to go on the journey of how a scientist and explorer makes a discovery. It introduces vocabulary that gives them the chance to interact like an expert in the field, and also includes the critical thinking questions that would aid in the students' comprehension. I think the little handout sheets were colorful and easy to follow. I also think that the lesson plan also includes that useful information on how to read an article and understand those key ideas in the text. And I like how it starts the lesson like that. Although the lesson did have a small project included, it did not allow the students the opportunity to think like a scientist and have some hands-on experience. I would maybe incorporate either pictures of different types of frogs or actual frogs and have the students do the research to discover their type. So they kind of go through a little process of their own of how those scientists in the article discovered that see-through frog. Overall, the lesson plan is very effective. I thought it had a good flow. After a few additions to enhance that discovery process, I think that students would enjoy it, and I think they could definitely learn from it.